Hey everybody, Bryan here at Franke Park in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's located sort of on the southwestern. I like the southwest part of this town. Um, it's had interesting interaction with some wandering folks around here. A young lady with a dog came over and said, "Hey, can I use your phone?" I said, "Yeah." And she wanted to call her mom because she was supposed to pick her up or something like that. And this girl's wandering around in her socks, no shoes. It looks like she may have been sleeping here all night. Still has the dog though. Nice enough person, but it was just kind of odd. So she calls her mom. And mom picks up, and the mom says that the alternator in her car went out, so she couldn't come over and pick her up. And as we're talking, this dude rolls up in a bike, also looking kind of disheveled, not quite all there, but so she's talking to her mom, and they're trying to plan out this pickup time. And the mom says, "Well, I won't bring it up. I want to keep this as somewhat child-friendly as possible." They wanted to partake in a particular hobby that I detest, that I find stupid, I guess. So here we have this probably age 19, 20, haggled young lady wandering around in the park in the morning with a dog looking for a ride, and the mom wants to partake in some criminal behavior. So, how are you doing? I'm doing fine. But yeah, as I mentioned, I'm at Franke Park here in Fort Wayne. It's a semi-common place for me to walk around and just decompress, unwind. This area that I'm at right now, they added this within the past couple years. This used to be just all woods, but it's kind of difficult getting into the park, so they decided, well, let's open up the back end of this, connect it to Goshen Road back there, and it'll be fine. They did a really nice job with it. I'm very, in fact, I'll pause here. This is a beautiful little area. They did a nice job. I like it quite a bit. All right, so school. I think today what I'd like to get into is what I experienced a couple of weeks ago. We just finished up our testing time. So think of big time state mandated tests for 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, that whole shebang. I was a proctor for, I think it was about 10 straight days, working in all 3 of those grades. Started with 5th, went to 4th, ended with 3rd. Went fine. Few issues here that I had to check on some rules about, but all in all, it was okay. But what kind of dawned on me was that testing in 2026, and I would dare say post-millennial testing in schools, is very different than what I experienced when I was younger. And I want to kick it back to about 1993, 94. A long time ago. Things changed, that's right. But there was something special about the testing time back then, and I think I figured out what it is. I talked with other teachers about this. To me, the mystique is gone. Back then, you treated those tests very importantly because it was different than what you experienced throughout your regular day. Back then, we didn't have laptops and computers on our desks and all that. We didn't run half of our school time through the computer. No Lexia, no MyPath, no integrated math and reading programs that you have to stare through a screen at. You relied on the teacher. You relied on your books. The way it was for, decades. But now, as technology kind of takes over the classroom, it pushes the teacher aside and it makes things more independent. So when kids deal with this, I'm going to turn around because there's some folks coming. I want to interact with them. So when you're a student nowadays and your day is almost entirely enveloped by these laptops, switching to important tests also done on laptops is not a big jump. It just seems like more of the same. But back then, we didn't do anything by computer. Everything was done by hand through books. So when the big time mandated tests came around, we had to leave our classroom, go to the cafeteria, and on those tables were, 100 tower computers, not laptops. Someone took all that time to set everything up. It must have been a long, arduous process, but it was important. And we knew it was, because when you had to leave the classroom to do that stuff, it's like, oh, this is serious. And if you think something is serious, you're more likely to treat it seriously. That's the mystique. It's like, ooh, this must be real if we can't even do this in the classroom. And it was. Nowadays, more tests on the computer. We've done this before. And you might think, oh, they're all prepared for that. No, they're not. Because the rules have changed. Any other test, they can call me over and say, hey, Mr. Bryan, come here. Yes, what do you need? Yeah, I got a question about this. Okay. I can't do that. In fact, they're in the classroom like any other day, working on tests like any other time, and they have those questions. I have to say, I can't help you. Can't do it. Can't even look at your screen. If you have a technical problem, sure. If you can't figure out how to use the buttons on your screen, sure. Everything else, it's on you. That's the integrity of the test. But in the mind of the student, to where this looks pretty much like any other test, they don't treat it as being that important. So when that happens, the scores drop. The average, the mean, might drop across an entire grade level. And who pays for that? Well, the teachers do. That's the number one concern. How is administration looking at the teacher when these test scores drop? Because the presumption is, well, if these scores are dropping, it must be a teaching problem. It's not always the case. That's the way it's looked at. I'm going to go down here. Sometimes people hang out down here. See some weird stuff going on. I'm sort of a curious fellow when it comes to these things. I feel like if I look hard enough, I'll find something odd. Anyways, the testing is a little weird now for a variety of reasons. I'm not sure if I could really manage it well if I were the age of the students whom I work with. So think around 10, 11. There we go. All right. Back on the trail again. The other thing that's kind of a trouble for me, even though the testing went fine, is when I go into different classrooms to proctor, is it okay for me to have the expectation that every teacher is going to basically handle these tests the same way? And what I found is that they don't. I don't think there have been any breaches worthy of me having to notify the state. But there have been times when I was like, well, is this allowable? Is this something that should be happening while the kids are testing? And I've downloaded the assessment books, the testing agreement manual. Like, if you are a testing administrator, here's what you must do. Because I was told that if it's not in the book, it's okay. I'm not so sure about that. Sorry, I was distracted by something on the ground there. Again, I don't think there have been any major breaches. I think these were just things that occurred that I want to see as either a standard or an expectation, meaning if this teacher does this, but this other teacher does not, it's still okay. Because I've been told a wild difference in how things should be viewed and how things are viewed. And something I mentioned in the first video was that I'm a classified excuse me, I'm a classified staff member. I don't have a license in teaching. Even when I was teaching, I was just working through a transitionary program. Never earned it because I gave up on it. Decided that teaching wasn't for me, at least as a profession. And doing it by way of just being a warm body in the room, willing to assist students that are in need. Sure, I can do that. But to make it my profession, nah, I don't think so. I don't think it works for me. It may have worked years ago, like when I was in school. Everything was by textbook. Lesson planning was simplistic. Didn't have to do a lot of jumping through hoops to get things done. Day 1, page 1. Day 2, page 2. And somewhere along the way, people decided, you know what? We're going to complicate the heck out of things. We're going to presume that it's entirely possible to have a classroom of 25 to 30 and teach them the same content, but at the same time, tailor making it to the individual. And I don't think that's really plausible. They try really hard. I don't think it's a worthy goal. Let me put it that way. I'll go this way. So I like to remain in reality with schooling, with how these things are managed. But there's a lot of people out there who have this sort of fantastical view of school. And it damages the teachers. That's what I'm finding. They put a lot of pressure on the teachers to perform and to attain a certain level of measurable success, not only in testing, but just general grades. If you have let's say a 5th grade student body of, let's say, 60 students, 60 5th graders, and you start your year by breaking them into 3 groups. Every group that, what I call high flyers, who they are definitely at grade level and might even be working on 6th grade material with good competency. You have your mid-tier, which, all right, they're kind of at their grade level, but some of them might struggle a bit and maybe have a 4th grade reading skill or 3rd grade math skill. But they're still working really hard. Okay, put them in the mid tier. But then you have the low tier, where these are kids with just a grab bag of deficiencies and particular issues with retention of material and information, have a hard time performing under pressure. They might be reading at a first grade level. They might still be trying to grapple the multiplication table. There's a little bluebird in the tree. You put them in that third group. For where I work, we call it the blue group. 3 colors, and blue is the one I'm in. Teachers who work with that group, is it fair for them to think that they're going to achieve a certain level of growth throughout the year? Is it proportional to the other groups? Is it fair to expect them to achieve a certain level that may not actually be achievable for a variety of reasons? And this is a tough one, because part of me thinks that yes, you could have proportional growth where the high-flying group reaches a 6th grade competency. Let's say math. Let's whittle this down to just math. That's kind of my forte, math. In the mid-tier, let's say 75% of them test at a 5th grade math level. Okay, that could be a goal. That third tier, knowing full well those kids entered that school year with a 1st grade math competency, is it fair to expect them to reach 5th grade competency by the end of the year? I would say no, because that's a huge leap. Can it be done? I suppose. It's plausible. But not every teacher is, there's an old movie called Stand and Deliver, where this kind guy walks into an inner city school and is expected to teach them calculus. And by the end of the movie, he more or less does. Not every teacher out there has that sort of capability. There's a certain amount of magic to that I think you have to be a supremely good facilitator of learning to achieve. And out of fairness, not all teachers do that. They don't have that ability. Not only that, the kids that I work with, they're with these teachers for about an hour a day, and they get 1 hour to work with them, and then they throw in the ridiculous computer work they have to do, which also eats up a lot of interpersonal time. I just don't think it can happen. I think there's too much pressure on these teachers to achieve goals not set by them. They're set by other people who are far away from that action. And those are the same people who are going to pass judgment on these teachers. And I find that to be one of the biggest problems with public schools. This idea that the people who have no clue have the power to affect a teacher's life, and thus a student's life. It's a mess, that idea. And I've spoken with teachers about this, for years, and their feelings on it. The excess amount of pressure they have to just get very difficult to teach kids to the level that someone else has made for them. That takes a lot. That takes a lot of one-on-one, I can tell you that much. And that gets me to my next point. I am big on one-on-one. I love sitting there with that student, connecting with their needs, giving them what they need in that moment. But where I work, one-on-one is almost kind of taboo. Like, you don't want to focus on that. Similarly, whole group is also a little, you have to have it for the dissemination of the material, but that shouldn't be the focus point. So whole group, so everyone gets the same material at the same time, one-on-one, where individuals get what they need in the moment, those two are not the right thing. The correct course of action is small group, where you have 3 to 5 kids, and you're whittling down the content to, bite-sized bits. Part of me is like, okay, I can get that, but with where I work and what I've experienced is that the small group does not really affect the individual as much as it would seem. The idea is that, well, if you're doing one-on-one, you don't have someone else to rely on to help you make sense of the content. So if I'm teaching someone one-on-one and they don't get it, they're kind of stuck. I kind of get it, because if you have a buddy there with you, you can kind of tag team to make sense of things. But that's what the teacher is there for. That's their point. So they're turning things into more a communal sort of affair. Like it's almost education by teamwork, because we can't trust them to do it on their own. And I'm not sure that's really the case. I think we might be underestimating the capability of a student if we force them into small groups, into these pods, so to speak, to work as a conglomerate. I just don't see the evidence of that being a healthy way to teach. And I think in a future video I'm going to talk a little bit about just the classroom itself and how they have changed over the years to promote this idea of group effort, where you have a team with you. You have a party with you to make it through, to learn these complicated things and to absorb them so you can use them on your own. It takes a team to do that. I just don't believe that's the case. I think there's something bigger that has gone on that we're not recognizing, or at least admitting, that's getting in the way of that. And I touched on that already with the advent of technology and infiltrating the classroom with it. There does not take too much thought to come to the realization that kids who have phones are at a severe disadvantage. When they bury their nose in a screen, it takes them away from actual learning. It takes them away from, reading books, getting out there and playing, using their minds, critical thinking, logical deduction, having the challenge of trying to figure something out for themselves. Having the world in your back pocket does have its advantages, but to a small child who needs to learn about that world and absorb things around them and experience things for themselves, it's not good. It's all artificial. It should be no wonder why we're talking about how loneliness is on the rise, anxiety is on the rise, depression in children is on the rise, heavily medicated students on the rise. We're teaching by the screen, we're parenting by the screen, and we're entertaining by the screen. When are these kids just getting out there and experiencing life? There's a big world out there. Yes, that puts me in the category of old fuddy-duddy, old grandpa, thinks that yesterday was better than today or tomorrow. It might be. That's very possible. As these cars go by, I'll shift over here to my right. There's a parking lot over here. There's a duck pond. Well, this is interesting. This guy with a van with bikes on the back, he's trying to back into his space. I would think that would keep the bikes towards the center of the of the street for ease of access, but I guess I'm wrong. Might kind of wander over here a little bit, get out of people's way though. No one likes to be on camera. Well, I can't really say that nowadays. There's people who seem to live and die by their phone cameras. Yesterday there was this stupid geese all over the place. And we got them over here too, this whole pond. We collectively call it the duck pond. But we get mostly geese and swans and such. But if you look off in the distance there's a pier. Maybe I shouldn't call it a pier. Maybe a dock. I can't even call it a dock. It's a deck. I'll call it a deck. I go over there sometimes and magnet fish. I don't like real fishing. I don't like deliberately hurting animals. So I do magnet fishing. Just take a big magnet, put it on the end of a nylon rope, toss it in the water, drag it across the floor, and see what you pick up. Over there I pick up a lot of fishing poles. I picked up a phone once, some charms like a bracelet, just a lot of different things over there. If I find a fishing pole, I just put it back on the deck. I don't do anything with it. There's going to be another walk I'll do at a different park where I can talk about a different thing I found in the river she might find interesting. And then another spot somewhere else where I helped the city out and I pulled some chairs out of the river that had been washed away after a flood. This area I'm walking to right now, there are two different roads. I'm not going to go to the right. There's nothing up there for me to really look at. I might try it another time, but over here on the left, this road goes up to the BMX area. Yeah, so if you like to ride your BMX bikes, there's a big track with hills and jumps and all that good stuff. This used to be where you would go to, I'm trying to think of the name of it. I think it's called Soapbox Derby, Pine Box Derby, something like that, where you make these little wooden cars and you take them to the top of the hill and you race people by going down. It was really cool. Over time, they got rid of that activity and just let the hill stay there, so it became a great sledding hill. I mean, just incredible. But that's gone. All we have now is the BMX stuff, which is cool if you like that sort of thing. I've never actually watched them do that. I might someday. As I get up here, I'm going to turn my attention to the right. I like watching the birds kind of jump around in there and harass the squirrels. So here, they call this the single track. If you have a bike or if you just want to walk it, you follow those paths and you'll be doing a lot of jumps, a lot of hills, a lot of little dips. You can go fast if you want. I try to stay away from this because if someone's biking, there's not a lot of room to have a walker and a biker at the same time. So it's like, you know what, I'll stay away. It's pretty cool though. I'm trying to think if there's anything here. Frog pond, yeah. But that's cool. Yeah, roller coaster, I think that's the one that has a lot of hills. But yeah, we have all these trails everywhere back here. It's awesome. And then up here, BMX area. And I think I'll take a little look at that. There's a map. Watch out for ticks. It's a good idea. Porta potty, if you like porta potties. I don't. Let's see here. Wednesday, Friday. Okay. Practice. Okay. Yeah, it actually looks kind of fun. I don't think I would do it very well, but let's see if I can get through the fence here. You can kind of see the hills and such. There's that big turn back there. It's kind of cool. And the rest of my little walk today, I'm going to be going through the woods here, straight shot back to the pavilion I started at, where I met the wanderers, I'll call them. So here's what's going on at school this week. Tomorrow, our 5th graders get to visit a middle school to get a little taste of what they'll experience next school season. Kind of fun. I try to remember back when I was a kid if I did anything like that, and I don't think I did because the situation was different for me. My elementary school went to 6th grade. And after 6th grade, you went right into junior high. And the school I went to was a senior high school. So there was one time where I went to that high school, or that junior high, and just kind of walked the halls with my parents. No big deal. It was just kind of, hey, I'm the principal. Go walk the halls. Have a good time. That's what I remember, at least. For what the kids are doing tomorrow. So they're leaving school promptly at 9 o'clock to get to this other school at 9:30. They're gonna meet with the principal and the I guess the vice principal or assistant principal or whatever. They'll be given a kind of like a welcome video to watch. And then ambassadors from the school, 6th graders, will take groups of kids to different rooms to have them experience being in the rooms. And they'll do that for a while. They'll go in and out of different rooms. The teachers that go with the kids will just wander. That's what I did last year, at least. And I talked to the cop, because the school has a security officer, and I asked him about what it's like to work in a school like that. And he told me some amazing stories. It's wild stuff. And then the kids will eat lunch. They'll experience what a lunch period will look like, how to get your tray, how to manage the room, where you go, things like that. Then about 11:30, they're done, and they go back to school for their regular day. Very organized. I mean, that's exactly, I think, what you should do if you want to prepare those kids for the future, at least for the next 3 years of their future. For me, it was just, come on in, check it out, you'll be fine. But that was my generation. Not a lot of forethought, not a lot of particular care given to it. We just kind of did it. Had to learn on the go. Little bird up there making noise. But the kids I'm closest to, I'll talk to them about, hey, how do you feel about doing this? And they're like, nah, I don't want to do that. Which is interesting because they're getting way more care, way more consideration, and organized planning around this stuff than I ever received. They treat it as it's no big deal. I get it. I just find it to be funny. There's a car behind me, so I'm going to get over here on the sidewalk. It's just interesting for me to be out of a classroom for a long time and then have a job that has nothing to do with children. Leave that job, turn my life upside down, and then get in the world of education, not having kids of my own. It's been eye-opening. I've learned a lot about myself through this. And it's been a really good experience. The only times I get kind of flustered or bothered is when it comes to not being able to do what I want to do. Not being able to say, hey, I see this problem, I want to approach it, I want to take care of it, but I can't. I have limited power, limited access, limited permission, I guess. Because by not being a teacher, I don't have the access that they have. The best I can do is share it with a teacher and hope that they do something about what I'm talking about. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And there have been times when I've made incredible headway with certain students that I've met all on my own, because I couldn't trust the teachers I was working with to do anything. And that might be a story for another time. But for today, I think I'll wrap it up. I've gotten back to where I started. This beautiful pavilion they added in the past year or two. Made my full loop. Beautiful park. Beautiful day. That's it for me. See you soon. Take care.